Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the new Plaguelord hero class, as well as some teams for it, some teams for the class event, the weapon, and just an overview of the hero class in general. So let's go over the hero class first. It is very similar to that of Titan. It's basically what I would consider the third Titan. There's basically three now. Obviously Titan itself, which is generally considered the best hero class in the game. There's Senital, which is basically a defensive Titan that has a lot of skull mitigation and extra barrier, and now basically the inverse of Senital, whereas instead of having a bunch of things that makes it better against skull reduction or more barrier, it instead has things that make it better against spell reduction. So it has disease on its final trait here that ends up allowing it to disease every single time it takes green, and it has both spell reduction and additional diseases off of its ability, basically just making it a lot better at surviving against casting. As far as the trees that you tend to go with it, the best one on its first one tends to be its immune to stun. However, this hero class can be used in second and third slot pretty effectively as well, and doesn't have to be put in first slot, similar to that of like Sentinel or Titan. So it does have a little bit more versatility in that it doesn't necessarily need to be in first slot to get its full value. But more often than not, if you are going to be doing it, you will be using its stun. Otherwise, in certain situations, you might need the extra attack if you're running like a Glaceon, because it does have Doom Skull spam at the start of battle if you so choose, or just simply more protection. On its next trait, unlike many hero classes that have useless things that end up boosting weapons on this one, it does have some things that are useful. The fact that you would use it in last slot is pretty rare, so you probably wouldn't use that too often. However, it does steal 1 life per purple gem. Unlike many of the other Titan-like hero classes that generally only take brown, this one tends to like taking brown, purple, and green. All three of those colors are quite beneficial to it, rather than just being focused all in on one single color. On its next one, it really has two choices, either even more disease if you want it more as a disable option, which you prevent the enemy from being able to cast even more if you don't have green spam on the particular team that you're doing, or you can opt for the 20% spell reduction, which can combined with its disease that it has on its final trait will not only allow you to make sure they get mana at a slower rate, but if they even do end up casting on you, will end up doing slightly less damage. As far as the next one, you'd pretty much just always want to start with half mana. There's pretty much no other choice other than that. It is technically possible to start with half mana on this by using a 50% human start. However, that's not really that useful, as both of these other two perks are pointless, so you might as well just start it with 50% mana. Other than that, it does, of course, have the traditional gain brown every single time, or gain barrier every single time it takes a brown. However, if you are using it a little bit further back in your team, you can go for an offensive option instead of a defensive option, in which you start the battle with Doomstorm. This is most noteworthy if you're actually using a Skull Spam team or a Doom Skull Spam team, and you would generally not use your hero class in first slot if you were to do it in these instances, making it pretty good in something like second or third with the other perks that it ends up having. Other than that, you do have an option of either +1 on brown or +1 on purple. It does have a little bit of a magic and attack gain every single time it gets damaged. However, this would only really be applicable and useful if you're up against something that has poison, as every single time that poison would trigger, or bleed if they happen to have that mechanic, would allow you to constantly keep gaining magic and attack. But if they're not running poison or bleed, there's pretty much no need to run this, and you would just simply go for a little bit extra mana. And simpler and similar to all the other ones that have Stone Tree, the final trait you would want to go for all the immunes, immune to stun, poison, disease, death mark, and devour, with the only instance that you wouldn't use this, of course, being whenever you want to utilize the poison in order to utilize the delirium trait. But yeah, overall, hero class similar to Titan, not better than Titan though. Titan's still definitely the superior option, but great one to have. Other than that, there is a really interesting weapon that comes with this. It ends up inflicting all stats effects onto an enemy, every single one in the entire game, as well as whatever future ones come into the game, and then explodes pretty much all the gems of one of their mana colors. The mana color is completely random based on whichever one they have. So let's say the troop that you target on is brown and purple. It would either explode all browns or all purples. But with how many it has based on its magic, it's pretty much going to explode every single one of that number. The most noteworthy thing about this weapon, other than or on its upgrades that it has, is it actually has a transform on it. It has a 10% chance to transform them, the first slot of the opposing team, into a giant toad, as you can see right over there. And this is pretty effective, as it's the first weapon that has a transform specifically off of one of the affixes that it has. Of course, there's things like Dragon's Eye that does it consistently, but that's on the ability itself, not on an actual upgrade of it. So he could potentially end up disabling two things. Well, one being whatever he ends up targeting, because of course that has silence on it, has death mark, has other stuff. and another could potentially be the first slot, since it could get transformed into a giant toad. So weapon in general, also really good, kind of like a Mountain Crusher that has an effect on top of it, in a way, just for slightly higher mana cost. So definitely a lot of potential for that weapon. So let's go into the event, and then we'll go into some other teams. As far as this event, there are two main teams I would say that are pretty good to run. First is for the earlier battles, you'd most likely want to run an AoE weapon, something that hits everything, into 3 Thralls. Thralls is a common that most people probably have. Would ideally be fully traded, so you have the extra purple, and you basically just get him up in one single purple if you have 3 of them, and simply keep spamming him for a bunch of mana generation in order to feed your AoE weapon. And then you switch into Mang if you needed something really cheap. So basically you go from AoE weapon with 3 Thralls into Mang into 3 Thralls, and that would be the cheapest way you could possibly get this event done. You could do that with Titan. However, you could also do it with this hero class as long as you have it to level 40, so that you can set it to barrier every brown and use it that way. Other than that, I'm personally going to be going with this Thrall, Corrupt Sorceress, Dawnbringer, and Possessed King. I end up changing up some as we get to later battles. From what I can tell so far, this might be what I'll be sticking with. It has a summoner, so we have a replacement for the first slot. We have Thrall there for our initial mana generator. I do have the Doomstorm on, so we can hopefully end up utilizing that. I do have Possessed King in this, and that's mainly for the mass explosions. Ideally, to utilize the Doomstorm while it's still in effect, just get a crazy amount of skulls, as you can kind of see happening right there. You can end up getting a lot of burst damage very quickly. Unfortunately, the enemy can also do the exact same thing back to you, so you have to be kind of careful with that, but that's what the extra Dawnbringer barrier is for. That's also what the summoner is there for, as you do lose 1 point per troop that you lose. However, if you have it resummoned, you do not lose any point. So if we lose that Thrall, and then we resummon there, we do not lose that 1 point. Of course, 1 point doesn't really make too big a difference, but if you're trying for the lower end of the leaderboard, every single point could potentially matter and could save you hundreds of gems if you can make it over someone else by having a flawless 0 death. But we'll move this over. No more Doomstorm in effect, but we'll try going for a transform here. Looks like we did end up getting one. Weaken it down a little bit more, and we basically just keep spamming Dawnbringer until we get the final kill. You could also go with Black Manacles and other similar weapons, but Dawnbringer does seem to work out the best if you happen to own it. We'll stick that for now. Get another Possess on him, I guess, or another Transform. Doesn't look like we can get it. And let's do this into what seems to be a Thrall at this point. For a Skull, that works too. And there we go. Yeah, something along the lines of that is pretty much what I'll be doing for most of the events. You may have noticed that I already have 100 remaining battles. Yeah, we are going for leaderboard for once. I'll be covering it later, but I actually got a Power Orb on the new account, which I've never actually gotten a Power Orb on this account yet. So I kind of feel bad now and want to go try getting a Power Orb. I'm pretty sure we still won't make it. We'll probably make like 2nd or 3rd, but hey, I feel kind of bad that the newer account got it, but this one hasn't, so we'll give it a shot. Anyways, let's go into some teams related to this hero class, as well as showing off this weapon, as it is pretty interesting. So we'll go all the way over here, using it first with a Doomskull team, Glaceon, High King Irongut, the Essence of Evil, and the King Bloodhammer. Keep in mind that the High King Irongut isn't necessarily required for this specific team. However, this is obviously just a Doomskull spam team. So the Glaceon and Bloodhammer are a little bit required. We'll still be using on the same perks. I could go switch a couple of them out if I really wanted to, like that one extra attack onto Daemons and stuff like that. But for now, what we currently have set should be fine. Similar to Titan, this hero class does have a few different ways that you can end up shifting it. I don't feel like the shifts are as useful as Titans, but you can use it more as either like a backline, or you could put it back up to the front by using it more as a tank with a barrier and everything. There are a few ways to use it if you so choose, but we'll go for our... Wow, everything's bad here. Ideally, with this team, we do want to rush grain, but we don't seem to have any option, at least currently. Grab that for now. There's the grains we not want. So right here, we're going to want to try getting an explosion onto something that's useful. So right here, looks like we'll do it on first slot, as we could potentially get a red, and it looks like it did the purple there instead of the red, which is a little unfortunate. But let's see what we can do with the Bloodhammer. We can get a poke there. It's not going to do too much beyond that. So I think I might just do that to get things rolling a bit. So we'll get that down, get a hit. Oh, we ended up getting to transform there as well. If I'm not mistaken, it's actually broken right now to have a near 100 or exactly 100% chance to actually get transformed. I'm pretty sure that'll be fixed. It's supposed to only have 10%. But from what I can tell, it seems to be like pretty much 100%. But yeah, this thing gives a lot of disables. We just throw this down, it gets silenced, it gets, well, you know, every stats effect in the game. Let's see if I can even remember all of them. Let's see. Entangle. Hunter's Mark, Web, Bleed, Burn, Fairy Fire, Poison, Silence, Stun, Burst, Disease, I'm pretty sure I missed like 3. But yeah, there's a lot of things that applies. I'm actually really glad that they finally added that. I think it was suggested quite a few times in the past, but they finally added something that actually puts literally every stats effect, a negative one, onto a enemy. It's an insanely fun weapon to use, and it's basically like Mountain Crusher that costs 15 mana, but with an insanely good effect. Unfortunately, this does make it quite a bit less viable than a Mountain Crusher. Well, both good and better and worse. Of course, the worst part is it costs 4 more mana. But of course, the better part is the stuff that it actually does is way more effective than a Mountain Crusher. Not only is it not restricted to a certain color, since it could technically do it on any of the 6 colors, not just on brown, but it also ends up just putting every stats effect onto a single trip, and has that 10% chance of hexing, which at the moment is pretty strong since very few things even have immune to transform. And even next patch, you can use the curse that this weapon has to overwrite the bless. Curse does overwrite bless, so you'll still be able to get the transform on everything, so it won't even matter since it curses the first enemy anyways off of one of its affixes. Actually, I didn't even show the affixes, but let me go show those real quick. But yeah, it does actually have a curse onto it, so you're never even going to need to worry about something like, let's say, a first slot being blessed, because not only does the weapon itself end up having curse, because obviously curse is one of the stats effects in the game, but it also ends up cursing the first enemy. So it gets 2 curses down, whatever you target and the first enemy automatically. So even if they're trying to run bless to protect against transform, it's not even going to matter next patch once that comes into the game. So yeah, really, really nice. The only real bad thing that it has here as far as perks or lack thereof is the 10% chance to summon a Quasit. That is obviously going to be a bad thing, not a good thing if that was to happen. But every other effect it has is insanely good, particularly the last 2. The first enemy curse and the 10% hex on Giant Toad, which is apparently 100% at the current moment in time until they fix that bug. But anyways, that's that team. Let's go into another, a really annoying team. I think we can get it down though. So right here, another use for the Wild Queen. Wild Queen just got so much better since a few weeks ago, and this hero class is pretty good with it because it is pretty dependent on having a lot of green. This hero class is almost more so uses green than brown, even though it is capable of using brown similar to any of the other similar Titan hero classes, or one similar to that. But let's go and, this is actually a really bad starting board. Luckily we got a pet though, or if we currently will have one active, but we're about to if we don't. There goes a bunch of browns. Let's take that for now. This will create a bunch of greens. Unfortunately, this board is almost greenless, so not going to help us too much yet. I do want to wait until some skulls bunch together, so I guess we'll lower that down. If nothing else, we can at least get 2 of them. Try to get some greens populated here so we can actually do something. So we'll do it here. Not really that good of a board, but it looks like it does indeed land. And we need more skulls, more everything, so we can do something here. So I'm going to go and I guess we'll disable out his hero. And we'll end up getting rid of his barrier as well as pretty much everything else. Curse does get rid of all positive stats effects. That does mean it overwrites barrier as well, which is pretty nice. We'll get our Toad right over there. Looks like we throw a Wild Queen down and just steal some of their attack. Get to kill really easily. Go for even more skull spam and pretty much killing everything. If we will need more greens, we can just explode a bunch of them with this and just get a ton. Every single skull into boost ratioing it to create an additional 3 green. It also has plenty of skull reduction. Ends up working out nicely. And we can simply go steal its attack and pretty much just wipe it with this. And, looks like it didn't get it all the way, but we'll try it again. Steal the last little bit of attack, and it looks like that should be enough. But, yeah, pretty much how that pans out. Now let me go show one real quick that's a little bit cheaper. We already have that maxed. Of course, I feel like every single pet within the last couple of weeks we've already had max that it keeps giving us. Even though we don't even have half of them maxed yet, it just keeps giving us ones. Already have. There's something a little bit cheaper. Might not work out as well. It doesn't use the weapon, but it's using the Cauldron here, all legend and below. Really everything pretty easy to get other than the Queen Jezebel, but it does work pretty well with the fact that we... I forgot to change the traits. Let me go well. I did mean to go put this back to the barrier option. Guess we'll go do that real quick. This is fine if we take one lose. But for this battle, we do need to go and switch the perks. There's that one really annoying defense team. Okay, we'll try taking the really annoying one on. But Rope Dart's really strong with the Entangle and everything. But then again, never mind. Let me not deal with Entangle because this team's actually really bad against Entangle. We do not have a particular option against it for this one. But let me go change up the class real quick with Plaguelord. So, of course, we do have the options of changing it. And this one does run more of a first slot oriented setup. We could run it with a spell reduction here too. I guess we'll just run it with Disease for now. Disease is the more offensive option of the two. Because, of course, Disease prevents them from getting the... getting their cast off in the first place by having their mana gains by half, whereas spell reduction is only going to really help if they actually get a cast off. But this mainly just helps to make sure that he has more disease options, particularly in teams where you're not taking a lot of greens. If you are taking a lot of greens, then obviously you can go for the 20% reduction instead. It just really depends what you're planning on running it with. Of course, always 50% mana. If you're running this in first slot, obviously you definitely want to run Barrier instead of Doomstorm because of how vulnerable it's going to be otherwise. Manas you can use as it's appropriate to your team. In this case, purple because we need it for greens here. And of course, we'd run Fortitude if we actually had it. But anyways, let's go run this real quick for a little bit of a attack spam version of this. So right off the bat, we're going to go try to get greens here if we can. We do have +1 purple off the perk. And it looks like his one explosion actually helped us. That's still a slight glitch where while he does get the explosion mana from it, the AI's, whatever the AI's cascade is, actually works towards us and not the enemy, which is kind of weird. So thanks for the mana, AI. Very appreciated. So we'll just go and... Oh, wait, we don't have alignment on that. Oops, I'm trying to use it as if it's... Whoops, I've been playing the console version too long. I'm trying to hotkey it like it's on Nintendo Switch right now. But anyways, let's take a green for now. Which way do we do it? I think that's fine. Let's see if pokes is fine at the moment. Don't really have enough to really get going on anything here. Ideally, we need a brown. I want to really deny that out over there. So we'll just take a blue for now. Get that down. Still don't have any alignments that we need. Again, really bad starting board, similar to that other one. But for now, we just keep poking some mana. Start getting Jezebel up, and if nothing else, that could feed us the last of our mana if we truly had to. I really don't want to have to use this on brown, as we are using, of course, the Team Barrier every brown. But I'm going to do that now just because we desperately need some mana to get this thing rolling a bit. So now we could either double our attack first or go for the Jezebel. And I think initially we're just going to go for the Jezebel, get more out of the double. So we'll do that so we can go and get it doubled to 110 there. And it gets a little extra to attack off the little perk thingy. Now we can convert away yellows into something that's useful if it's actually applicable here. Let's go grab some more brown, get a barrier, and just go from there. And ideally, we do want to keep casting this into green so that we can keep not just diseasing them more, but also filling up all of our green-related troops. Everything except the thing that generates us, our green ends up utilizing it. So move that down. Looks like it's okay to do it. Looks like a 5 times there, so never mind, maybe not. We don't have a drop for that either, not even off of a convert. So I guess we could just bunch all this together. It doesn't look like he's going to do anything with it yet. And nope, he does. He does deny it. Okay. Use his turn for that. Could go for another brown. Purple or a yellow here would probably be best. So we'll take that into Skull. There a little bit of poke down. Let's see. Come on, yellow. Do something. Need that alignment. Dark Maiden, do your roll. Get that. Get a nice little green down here. Looks like we should be able to get rolling off of that. And then we can start going into pretty much one-shot range from there. So grab that, one of everything. Now we just Cauldron, and now we can start doing what this team could do. So double to max, and just start one-shotting literally everything. So we'll get that down, get our instant kill. First disease helping us ever so slightly by having their mana. Doesn't make it so they will cast a little bit less. You can synergize this with things like Famine as well, and just basically anything with mana drain, just to make sure that they keep their mana very low and essentially never have any mana to do anything. But there we go. That's one slightly cheaper team that we could do it with. As far as its most useful uses, I would say anything that can actually combine green spam with skull spam. Personally, I've actually preferred her the most in this particular Wild Queen team out of everything. It's similar to a team we've already shown, but it just works so much more perfect than with Titan or any of the other options that we've had really in the past as far as functionality. And probably the main thing I would actually realistically be running her for. We just put it onto a little bit of armor there. Let's see what else here. Fix it back to everything it needs. We'll keep the higher level of disease just because it's more offensive, and why not? Obviously 50% mana. Keep the Doomstorm because we want that higher damage, and the extra purple is fine. Yeah, let's just go do this one last time to show off its power. But yeah, right off the bat, we'll want to go and get either the orb up with a single green since we have it on +2, or go with the first slot there and try getting him to convert into a bunch of greens. So we'll do that for now. Take the other one, grab our other green, and should just be able to go explode spam from here. So right here doesn't matter too much. I guess we'll do it on... Well, we could guarantee do it on brown, but I think we'll try for green there, which it looks like we landed on. Get a bunch of skulls because of Doom Skull spam. We can then explode all that for a billion greens. And pretty much a win from here. Do we have alignment, or do we go Wild Queen first? I'm going to go Wild Queen first. Let's get that down. First, we have him completely disabled. He can't really do anything. And we didn't even need the skull spam into there. But yeah, by far my absolute favorite team that ends up utilizing the new thing. I think you could end up using something slightly similar with Web Spinner if you needed something cheaper. But of course, with both the skulls and the green off of Wild Queen, it's working a little bit better, and probably one of my favorite teams actually these days. This weapon is a ton of fun to use. Highly, highly, highly advise getting 250 wins on the Plaguelord. Even if you don't specifically plan on using this hero class and you just plan on using something like Titan instead, this weapon is just insane. It's, I would say it's better than Jar of Eyes, and in some situations, not all, but in some situations, it's even better than Mountain Crusher, so really great option to have in your arsenal. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions about the hero class or anything, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I will be streaming later today those 100 battles we have. Not sure if I'll be getting all of them done today. Most likely not, because that's a ton of battles, and we're not going to do that many quite yet. But I think I will try doing all of them by the end of this week. Maybe we'll try for like number 2 or number 3. Highly doubt that will make number 1. Not sure if I'll contest it or not. I do want to make it at least a little bit higher, get some more orbs, finally get that Zoog off, or at least one step closer to doing so. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you all later. Best of luck with the Plaguelord hero class, and have fun. Goodbye, everyone.